About 30 years ago, my dad's best friend was shot and killed in a shooting in their local town. The man that shot him was arrested and charged for murder, but he was released only 15 years later. My name is Taylor Wanschneider, and today I'm going to be talking about the death penalty and how I think it should be enforced in every state. The death penalty brings justice, closure, and a sense of safety for those affected by these serious crimes. To start off with, I'll be talking about some facts from BBC News that supports the death penalty. First of all, it would make these families of the victims feel a sense of comfort, knowing that the person who took away their family and loved one can never hurt anyone else ever again will bring them comfort and closure. Next, the punishment should fit the crime. If you have killed someone, you should be killed too. A quote that goes along with this is, "They did the crime, they should do the time," meaning that if they killed someone and took their entire lifetime, it should be the same punishment for them. If someone murders someone else, they have given up their own human rights, and this includes the one to stay alive themselves. The death penalty makes it impossible for criminals to do bad things over and over again. To go along with that, executing someone permanently stops the worst criminals and means that we can all feel safer. Also, if you knew that you would be put to death for doing these crimes, before you would even do them, you would be less inclined to do so, knowing what your outcome would be. Lastly, if the death penalty wasn't allowed, society would be favoring criminals. They would be allowing them to get away with bearing fewer costs than their victims had to bear. This means that if you killed someone and only had to go to jail for not a full lifetime and were set free after, you would not be losing as much as the person that you took their entire rest of their life away from them. Some facts that I found that support the death penalty from the Death Penalty Information Center is that only 28 states still have the death penalty. Within those states, 56% of people who are on death row are white and 34.1% of them are black. On the other end, 76% of these victims are white and only 15% of them are black. The actual definition of death row is capital punishment. This means that it was the state-sanctioned homicide as punishment for a crime. On the other side of the issue, there are many valid facts that go against why people don't support the death penalty. Some things that I found from the members from the human rights careers is that they say that it is inhumane, that it is an irreversible act that you are doing to somebody. I disagree with this because the act was also irreversible of that person whose life or lives were lost that they took while they did that crime. Their next statement is that lethal injection, which is also the most common way that people are put to rest from death row, often has higher rates of error, which lead to severe suffering of those prisoners. If they do have those errors, it often takes a much longer time for them to die, which means that they're there suffering for longer before they actually die. Also, exams that they did after each prisoner has died showed that there were multiple chemical burns and other injuries due to that lethal injection error. Next, one of the main points that people who are against death row say is that mentally ill people, people of color, and people that are poor make up most of death row inmates. 5 to 10% of death row inmates are mentally ill, and almost 40% of them are of African American color. They use this as an argument because they are saying that if the person is mentally ill, they cannot be to their full state to comprehend and understand what they did. Lastly, they argue that death row doesn't prevent future crime. I disagree with this because I think that, like I said before, if people knew that what their punishment would be and that they would be put on death row for doing these crimes, they would be less inclined to do them. And also, they still killed someone. and you can only imagine how the family and friends of that person who died have to feel every day for the rest of their lives. In conclusion, both sides of this argument have valid points, and that's why this is such a controversial topic to talk about. But justice deserves to be served, and the fear needs to be put to rest. The death penalty brings justice, closure, and a sense of safety to those affected by these serious crimes. Even though I wasn't personally affected by the story that I told earlier, my dad was, and so are millions of other families and friends each year. This is why this is such an important topic to me, and I think that it needs to be continued to be discussed and decide that death penalty should be enforced in every state of the United States, and hopefully this can also transfer over to other countries and regions of the world so that the entire world can enforce the death penalty and put away the people for life who took away the lives of other people, innocent people.